Hi, this is Alicia Sisk-Morris, following up on part 2 of starting your own business. So next what I'm going to do for you is share with you how you walk through the process of becoming an actual business entity. So the first step that you would do is file an Articles of Incorporation in the state to which that you live in. For example, if you live in North Carolina, you would file that paperwork with the North Carolina Secretary of State. I have and do assist clients in filling this paperwork out and processing it. So if you need help with that, just let me know. Once that form is filed with the Secretary of State, they will receive it, and in the case of North Carolina, you will pay a $125 processing fee. Once it is processed on their end, they will look at the name of the company that you have requested, and they will make sure that no one else in the state has that same company name. And assuming that is correct, then what they will do is they will send you back a copy of the form that you submitted, but there will be a sticker in the upper right hand corner. That sticker will indicate the date that your business was incorporated, which is important for your tax return, and it will also issue you a Secretary of State ID number, another number that you'll need to keep track of. Once that process is taken care of, and in North Carolina that takes anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, you will then be able to process and move forward to the next step. The next step is to contact the IRS, fill out the appropriate paperwork so that you can obtain an EIN, or an employee identification number, from the IRS for your business. So what this means is you will no longer be using your personal Social Security number as a part of your business identity. Your business now has its own identity, which is what we set up with the Secretary of State, and that business entity will have its own tax ID number. This is the number that you will use on your tax returns and all forms moving forward for your business. That number is usually a 2-digit number followed by a 7-digit number. So it's still 9 digits just like your social, but the format is different. So once you've finished doing that, you will then obtain any state identification or city identification numbers. In North Carolina, I can't think of any of the cities that require you to have a city number, but in North Carolina you do have a state ID number. That number is the number that you will use for any payments that you would make to the North Carolina Department of Revenue for your business. So that will be for things like sales and use tax or for payroll tax. If you do not foresee needing to provide sales tax or payroll taxes, you will not need to have this number. Each state, of course, will be different, but that's how it is in North Carolina. Moving on to the next step. So once you have received a copy of your Secretary of State Articles of Organization and your tax ID number from the IRS, you will need to take both of those documents to a bank of your choice, and you need to open a separate business bank account. I cannot stress this enough. A separate business bank account. You do not want to mix your business and your personal finances at all. Now, it's perfectly appropriate that when your business income gets deposited in your business account, that you can pay yourself by either writing a check or transferring the funds from your business account to your personal. So, for example, if you've been paid for the work that you've performed, you've deposited that money in your business account, but it's time to pay your mortgage, or maybe it's time to pay for soccer camp, simply transfer the money that you need from your business account to your personal account, and then pay those personal expenses out of your personal account. It's extremely important to keep those expenses separate. As a tax preparer, I literally have to check a box and indicate on the tax return whether the business that I'm working with or the individual who has their own business that I'm working with has a separate bank account. It's a completely crucial thing for you to make sure that you take care of. Now, as far as banks, there's certainly many options out there, so you want to actually investigate which business bank works best for you. So let's look at some of the banking factors. So first of all, there's no reason not to look at the immediate bank that you bank with. Please keep in mind that not all banks offer business banking accounts. I know that sounds crazy, but for example, a very popular bank for individuals to bank with here in North Carolina is the State Employees Credit Union. It's a great personal bank, but as a part of their charter, they are not allowed to have business banking accounts. So if you try to open one up there, they will not allow it, first of all. Second of all, even if you tried and you got away with it, if they found out you were using it for business purposes, they will shut the account down. So no reason to actually worry about trying to go to those sorts of banks. Other credit unions will allow for business banking, so you'll need to check with your local bank. So here are some factors to take in consideration when picking the best business bank for you. First of all, of course, location. You want it to be convenient. Second, look at the different business banking accounts that they offer. So even if you walk into a big bank like a Wells Fargo or a PNC or a Bank of America, they're going to have multiple different types of business banking accounts, just like they have multiple different types of individual banking accounts. What you're going to need to look at when you look at the bells and whistles that come with each account, look at things like the minimum balance that you're required to keep in the account, the maximum number of transactions you can do in the account per month. I believe my bank actually counts each check that is processed, even if they're processed together, as one transaction. So if I walk in with 10 checks and with them totaled up with making one deposit, they're going to consider that 10 transactions. Also look at deposit limits. I know that sounds crazy. You should be able to walk in the bank and make as many deposits as you wish. And you may be interested in having a business that deposits cash. Unfortunately, some bank accounts will limit the amount of deposits that you can put in their account per month, especially if you're a cash-heavy business. There are fees associated with going over that limit if you deposit too much cash. So keep that in mind. Of course, monthly fees are always the first and foremost of my concerns when it comes to banking accounts. I really don't personally like and or believe in paying monthly fees. I think that there's bound to be a bank out there that can work with you without you having to pay that expense. And those fees can range anywhere from, $15 all the way up to hundreds of dollars. So please make sure that you're fully aware of what it takes to keep free checking and stay away from those monthly fees. I'd rather you keep that money in your pocket. So if you take checks, which most of us still do, please keep in mind that there are varying ranges of bounce check fees. So if someone presents you a check and you deposit it, they have insufficient funds, you and your bank will charge you for that bounce check. I have seen bounce check fees range from $12 to $35, depending on the institution. So please keep in mind and investigate what those fees are, particularly if there is a concern that occasionally you might have a bounce check. Also, one of the biggest things in today's situation with mobile phones and internet very widely accessible to everyone is the ease of their online banking. Can you take pictures of your checks and deposit them that way from your smartphone? Can you access your funds, transfer funds, pay your bills online? How good is their online banking experience? That's always a factor for me. And finally, take in consideration your long-term plans for your business. Will you be wanting to obtain a loan, for example? Some banks will work with you a little bit better than other banks. You might be the size business that might be super appealing to a smaller bank and make it easier for you to get loans with them. Or you may be a really large corporation and you're wanting to borrow $500,000 to outfit a new manufacturing facility. A small bank might not be able to afford the ability to provide you that type of cash flow and type of loan. So try to align yourself with a bank or a lending institution that can provide as many of your needs as possible so that as your business grows, you'll be able to, and they will be able to grow with you and support you as your business expands. So those are some kind of major factors to take in consideration. Certainly there's other ones that you can take in consideration and think about in choosing your banks, but these are the basic ones that I always look at. And again, you can research a lot of this information from the websites of the different banks. You may have local banks that you work with, great, or there may be other banks in your local market that might even provide other bells and whistles that some of the banks here in North Carolina do not provide. So like I said, please investigate before picking the bank that you choose. So the next big question is going to be whether you will be accepting credit cards. There are several factors to take in consideration in processing credit cards. Most people take them these days because, let's face it, the number of people running around with their checkbook is decreasing significantly over time. I would say that most people over the age of 50 do have access to their checkbook readily, and I would say most people under 30 may not even own checks because they do everything digitally these days. So think about whether that's a process you are going to be taking in consideration, and there's more than one avenue to which to process and get credit cards. So you can go to your local bank and get a terminal. You can contact Square, which is one of the vendors that I use, and use their process. QuickBooks provides you with an avenue for processing credit cards, and QuickBooks also provides you with ACH transfer capability. It's my understanding that Square has also added that functionality, but I personally have not tested it. An ACH transfer is identical to having direct deposit. When your employer pays you through direct deposit, it goes out of their bank and into your bank. It's a several-day process to make it happen. And that's the same situation for QuickBooks. QuickBooks takes about 5 days to process ACH transfers, whereas it can take 1 to 2 days to process the deposits from credit cards. Do keep in mind that's business days and does not include the weekends. And of course, there are third-party vendors also available that you can reach out to purchase and or lease equipment. So I'm about to finish up phase 2 of the business presentation. Hang tight, and we'll start up another video where we'll go into depth a little bit more about credit cards, and that will be in part 3. Talk to you soon.